In this video, we are going to sew the Rivet Rhubarb Raglan. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is all of my memory presses. Memory presses make it a heck of a lot easier at the end to follow your press marks and makes things neater and easier. So I'm going to press the hem, and I'm also, unless I'm adding cuffs, which I might with this, I press along the sleeve hems. I'm also going to press my cuffs and my neckband in half before sewing it. Now that we have everything memory pressed, it's time to start putting this together. Unlike a set-in where you put your front and back together and then you add your sleeves, raglans are different because the sleeve is actually part of the neckline. So we're going to go ahead and start with the front. Raglan sleeves are way easier to determine front to back because they are very different. The back is always higher than the front. So we're going to just take one of the sleeves and we're going to place it right sides together. The trick of this is to pin the top and the bottom and then ease the rest in. So what I'm doing right here is you want to leave 3/8 inch of a point. I'll show you real close here. This point is going to get cut off with your seam allowance. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up the part of the sleeve here, right? If you look there, okay? And go ahead and pin. Then you're going to move to the underarm. Match that up and pin. Now the rest of this is just like a set-in sleeve. You have two opposite curves or slightly different curves that you have to ease together. So we just go ahead and ease the two together like so. So I'm going to go ahead and now stitch along this line, and then I will do the same thing on the other side with my opposite sleeve. I use a serger, which is going to automatically cut off that seam allowance. If you use a regular machine, you will need to snip off that extra triangle when you're done. And I always start from the top so I can aim that seam allowance. Don't worry if it isn't perfect. That's one of the great things about knit and it being stretchy, is that you have the ability to make small adjustments as you bow. See, this one wasn't great. I'm a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim that so that it's an even one. This side, I did way better. All right, next I am going to press my seams either to the sleeve side, if I'm just making a regular raglan, or if I want a top stitch, I'm going to press them towards the bodice because it makes a really nice line on the other side. And then we're going to do the back. Since I'm not going to top stitch this one, I elected to press my sleeves or my seam allowance towards the sleeves. Okay. So now we're going to do the back. The back's a little bit different because this is a little bit different shape. And also we're going to do this one at a time so that we don't get too confused. So you're going to take your back bodice and you're going to lay it right sides together on top of the sleeve. Okay. So up here where this flat part is, you're going to match that to the flat part of the neckline here. Okay. Go ahead and pin that. Again, you don't have to be absolutely perfect. It's a knit and it's a raglan. It's very forgiving. Okay, we're going to do the same thing down here at the bottom. Pin. And then we're going to ease the opposite curves in. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and sew this, and then I'm going to come back and I am going to take my other sleeve and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to line up the top of the neck, and then I'm going to line up the underarm, and I'm going to pin and stitch. So now you've got this big kind of circle looking thing, right? Here's your neckline. So now we're going to sew the side seams. Starting on one side, bring your underarm seams together. Put them right up against each other. Okay. Just get as close as you can. The more accurate you are, of course, it's under your arm, so matters not as much. Okay, hold the pin there. Okay, then you are going to, I should make sure that's even. There we go. Then you are going to go ahead and pin right here. Especially with a cap sleeve or something to that effect where it's really short right here, you might find that your sleeves don't quite line up, and that's okay. When we cut knits, when we stitch, it's easy to get just the slightest bit off, and that's fine. This is like the little tiniest bit, so I'll probably just trim that to make it easier in the end. So next thing you're going to do is you're going to match up your hemline. Okay. There we go. And then the waist, which unless it's a straight pattern, it's just where it curves in the most. Okay, so then go ahead and pin the rest of this and stitch from the underarm all the way through the hem, and then do the same thing on the opposite side. Hey, look at that. It's looking like an actual shirt. So next, we're going to put on the neckband. So I have already sewn the two short ends together, and because I did the memory press at the beginning, it's super easy for me to know exactly how to fold it in half. And then I'll give it another press. So then we're going to quarter our neckband. So that seam's always one of the quarters because that's the ground zero. So I'm going to find the center front. And then I'll use those two to find that quarter mark. And the same on the opposite side. for this one. Okay. Then we have to do the same for the shirt. And since there are no actual seams on any of our quarter marks, we have to start by finding the front and the back. So we're going to pull the two pieces together in the back, line them up, place a pin. There's our center back. Do the same thing to the front neckline. And there's our center front. And then just like we did with the neckband, you're going to match up your center back and your center front, and then find your side quarters. Be careful not to stretch the neckline. You just want to match it until you get to the right spot. Depending on what neckline you are doing is where it'll end up on the sleeve cap. If you're doing a crew neckline, your pin's going to be way further back. This is the low scoop, so it's almost at the top where the bodice hits, but not quite. Okay. There we go. So now we are going to match our quarter mark, starting with the center back. So I match my center back. I'll repin. Match my center front. And repin. And then make sure you don't get it twisted. And then you're going to match this side and this side. If you need to, do it in 8ths. Especially if it's the longer one, it can make it a lot easier when you're trying to stretch your band evenly. So I'm going to go sew this. As you stitch, you can see that the band is smaller than the neckline. That's so it pulls it in. So when you're stitching, don't pull the neckline, only pull the band. So you're going to stretch the band until it's the same length as the neckline and stitch. Now my neckband is on, and I've pressed it nice and well so it lays flat. One thing to note, if this pattern is a 90% of the opening, patterns vary a lot, 80, 85. I do 90 because I'm assuming like a cotton lycra. If you're using a ribbing or a rayon spandex or something with a lot of stretch, you're going to want to shorten this. And that is just time, experience, and trial and error. But for this one, I use cotton lycra, so I had to use the exact same pattern dimensions. So now I'm going to go ahead and top stitch. Top stitching is not absolutely required, but it looks so much better. I will bring home t-shirts from wherever, and if they're not top stitched, I will top stitch them myself. Not only does it make it look nice and finished, it also keeps the neckband from flipping out. So I don't know if you have noticed, if you are wearing a ready-to-wear shirt where the neckband is not top stitched, it'll start to flip out in the front particularly. And the wider the band and the lower the neckline, the more that's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this, and then we're going to work on the cuffs. Okay, all top stitched. So now we're going to move on to the cuffs. And the cuffs are done in almost exactly the same manner as the neckband is. So I'll start with one here. And I have my cuff that is sewn short sides together. And I have my memory press. And so it makes it easy to fold it in half. So just like the neckband, we're going to make this into quarters. This is the cap sleeve cuff. I did make it thinner this way because I used the narrow neckband for this, and I kind of liked the way it looked. So it's the beauty about sewing. You can make your own decisions as far as that goes. So I'm going to go ahead, quarter it just like I did with the neckband. And just to note, at no time when you are putting on bands should you be pulling really hard on the band. It is not that much. It only has to stretch 10%. So if you find yourself really pulling on it, stop. Just stop and take a second and see if you can figure out why. Because if you have to pull really hard, then that's going to bunch your neckline up and it's not going to look good. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and quarter the sleeve opening. You see I used the underarm seam as my first point and then found my sleeve point on a set-in sleeve. That usually will be marked, but it's easy to find if it isn't. And like that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. We'll find where our seam is. Match the underarm seam to the cuff seam. Now, if you've chosen hemming, you won't be doing this. You will just be pressing your sleeve to the wrong side by 1/2 inch and top stitching. But I haven't done one this way yet, and I wanted some cuffs, so I'm going to do that. And then we're going to stitch all the way around in the same manner as we did our neckband, pulling the arm opening only, pulling the band to meet the arm opening, not pulling the arm opening to meet the band. So we're going to go all the way around that, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and then I'm going to get a good press. Okay, I really like the way that turned out. It matches nice. Good contrast. I went ahead and top stitched because I can. I like the way it looks, and I like the way it feels. The seams aren't exposed. So the last thing we have to do is the hem. So because we memory pressed this hem, this is a fairly easy process. So we just go ahead and go along the hem and add a few clips or pins or whatever you want. Okay, and you're going to go all the way around. When you get to the side seams, you can see you already have this memory press, so it's fairly easy. And pin. Okay. Continue all the way around, and then you're going to top stitch the hem. And there we go. Top stitched. It's beautiful. We're all done.